Hello, everybody. Welcome.
Hi, welcome. Carol Eastwood.
And Chetan Parkin here with you.
Saturday, October 22nd, with news from the cosmos for the coming month of November. If you're joining us for the first time, we produce this show once a month to share the universal energies as they're moving through both astrology and also through the human design matrix. It's a complimentary broadcast. It's open to all people in our evolutionary human design community and any of your friends that you'd like to invite. So together today, we'll explore the upcoming challenges and the opportunities for the remainder of October. We're broadcasting here on the 22nd of October, so we'll look at that last bit of October. And then we'll go into the powerful month of November with two eclipses that are really bringing big changes. So hold on to your hats because it's going to be a wild ride in November.
We have one of the eclipses coming up in the next couple of days, don't we?
Yeah, I think it's the 20. I'll give the dates when we get in there. It's the 25th, so it's coming up soon.
Yeah.
So the fall season is really a busy one. It's always a busy one. It's particularly busy this fall season. Here at Evolutionary Human Design, we're going to be opening enrollment for several programs during this fall season, including our yearly Energies and Opportunities of 2023, where you'll get specific guidance on a month-to-month basis with dates that are identified to be the best for overall success in life and business for the entire year. So you can, use the information that we share with you. So you'll get all that information, the entire calendar for the year as to which are the best days to take different kinds of action, as well as 3 broadcasts that we do each month to keep you up to date, week to week through each month of the year. So you'll see that coming up soon.
It's a very, very powerful calendar.
Yeah.
And everyone who uses it tells us they get special results as a result of using it.
Right. We made it so that you can really plan ahead with confidence because we, of course, look at the energies as we're planning ahead, but we know them. So this way, this gives you a map that takes our information and shares it with you so that you can have it accessible and use it for yourself. We're also going to be launching our yearly holiday special, in which you're going to get a full 2.5 hours of private, personal, one-on-one time with a human design reading with Chetan and coaching with me to make sure that you've got the best possible opportunities, that you're going to make the best use of the opportunities that are personal for you in 2023 and beyond. So our team, I want you to know, our team has been urging us for a couple of years now to raise the price on this particular program. And we're holding out for 1 more year. So it's the same price that it's been for the past 7 years. And if you know that you'd like to have this kind of a deep dive into your human design and into your life, your goals, your vision for the coming year and beyond, then look for this promotion in the coming month.
And just to let you know, Carol and I, in these last days, have spent a lot of time sitting together looking at the overall energies of 2023.
Yeah.
And let's just say it's going to be different.
Yes.
You'll get our updates accordingly in due course.
Okay, exciting times we're living in. So let's start it off with an eclipse. Why not? So many of you, probably most of you, know by now what an eclipse is, but some of you may be newer to our program. So I'll just take a sec to explain it. So an eclipse, so basically every month we have lunations, right? We've got a new moon, followed a couple of weeks later by a full moon. And we have a first quarter and a third quarter moon. So we've got this cycle that goes from the very beginning of the new moon, which is where the sun and the moon are exactly together, all the way to where the moon is opposite the sun at the full moon, and then back again. So that happens on a monthly basis, and the lunations, as we call them, the new moon or the full moon, are usually significant, but they're particularly powerful when we have an eclipse. So an eclipse is simply an extraordinarily powerful new moon or full moon. We start out here on October 25th, just what, a few days from now.
Yes,
right?
3 days from now.
Right. With a new moon solar eclipse at 2 degrees of Scorpio. And what's unusual about this particular solar eclipse is that it has also with it Venus. So we've got the sun, the moon, and Venus all in 2 degrees of Scorpio. So essentially, what is this eclipse saying? You know, any eclipse brings changes, and the changes are of a solar eclipse are usually they're more internal kinds of changes. So what we're looking at is changes to our sense of identity, our sense of purpose, our sense of values, because we've got Venus there. And any changes that we need to be open to while the sun is transiting Scorpio. So the sun goes into Scorpio on October 23rd, and we're broadcasting here on the 22nd, so that's going to be tomorrow in the wee hours of the morning Pacific time. The sun enters Scorpio, and then following that on the 25th, we'll have this eclipse. While the sun is in Scorpio, for all of us in one way or another, we're in a bit of a deep dive into more of the essential questions of life. You know, who am I really? What am I doing here? What is my life's journey really about? You know, it's a deep sort of look at and what might I need to look at or examine more within myself or within my life. What needs transformation? What needs healing in my life or in myself? What needs transformation in my life? So it's a deep dive into a transformative journey that lasts for 30 days, but it gets kicked off really powerfully by this solar eclipse on the 25th. You've got other aspects that are quite active right now. For one, if you were with us last month, you learned that the planet Mars, which has to do with our work in the world, it's our business, our profession, the work that we do, turned retrograde on October 30th, or it's turning retrograde on October 30th.
Yes.
I didn't say that right.
In a few days. So,
yes.
You know, the eclipse and this conjunction with Venus and this Mars turnaround.
Mars turn.
It's dramatic.
It is very dramatic. And basically right now, Mars is just kind of sitting still at 25.5 degrees of Gemini. It'll get all the way to almost 26 Gemini before it does its station and turns retrograde. So essentially what's happening is that we're looking at planetary motion. And of course, all planetary motion in astrology and in human design is relative to our vantage point here on Earth. So we're looking at Mars moving through the cosmos, the sky, for us, and at one point it's going to appear to stand completely still. Right? That'll happen on the 25th, 26th, 27th, 28th, 29th as it turns, and it'll look like it's standing completely still. And then it appears to begin moving in backwards motion, retrograde motion. Mars is going to do that for 2.5 months. So we're going to have retrograde Mars, and I'll say a little bit more about what that will bring in our lives. Retrograde Mars from the end of October, all the way through November, all the way through December, and into January, I think it's 10th or 11th. But even you could really say sort of through the remainder of the month of January. So a 3-month deep dive. This happens once every 2 years, so it's not that rare of an event, and it's a natural event that occurs within the evolution of the species, you know. It's a time in which ideally we're given to take a bit of pause in terms of our business or the activities that we're doing in the world, the way that we make a living, the work that we do, the job that we have, to stop, you know, sort of step back a bit and really take a look at how fulfilled are we, how satisfying is the work, are we bringing our absolute best to it? Is there more we could be doing? Is there something we've really longed to do all our life that we haven't done? Are there some new systems or processes that need to be put in place in order to facilitate things, to make things just a little easier for us?
Could be.
I've been working this week with 2 different people whose systems are in the dark ages. I thought, if you just upgraded it, things would be so much easier. But anyway, here we are. All of us will be going through a bit of a review of our work, our professional life, and our business. And the review is a friendly thing, in that it's friendly in that if we don't stop and take a look every now and then, we never make essential changes or realize what's working, what isn't working, and what could work even better. So it's an important passage in time. And it can feel a little bit like, as we approach the retrograde Mars and at times, as it's going through, it can feel a little bit like we're kind of, things sort of slow down in a way. We don't have the kind of momentum that we've had in the past. Don't worry, that momentum will be back. You'll be moving, you'll be flying about the speed of sound again this coming spring. But really take the time to take a look at what's working for me in my entire work life. Right now, as we're broadcasting here the 22nd, 23rd, with the sun moving into Scorpio, we've got Mars in a right angle with Neptune. So it's a little difficult to see clearly where we're going. Things can get a little bit muddled up when Neptune is involved in that way. It's a little bit like just driving through the fog, where you have to slow down and really be careful when you're driving through fog until you come out the other side and you can see clearly again. So there's a bit of that going on here in the latter part of November, and all of that framing the eclipse that happens on the 25th, that solar eclipse, which is going to bring big changes, deep, not big changes that are that we can see in outer activities, but more deep changes that happen internally in terms of our sense of purpose, our sense of direction in life, our sense of meaning, and our sense of values. So that's how I see this period of time starting off. That takes us from my end of it through the end of November.
So looking at it from the human design perspective, yes, the key word here is values. Lately, I've been going through one by one all the gateways in the I Ching, in the book of lines that I've written. And with these last weeks, we've been going through the splenic gateways. The gateways all about health and healing and alertness and intuition and instinct. And really the message at the moment is for us perhaps to get out of our kind of more logical approach to life, our belief systems, and move more into trusting our intuition. Because when we're looking at logic and we're looking at belief systems, we're looking very much at shared knowledge, things that other people have worked out or worked with or put forward, whether it's right or wrong, whether it's relevant in this moment in time or not. And I think all of us are realizing, the times are changing very fast. And a lot of the knowledge and stuff we've had from the past is no longer quite so relevant. So this new moon eclipse takes place in hexagram number 28. 28 is one of these gateways in the spleen center, and it's a gateway that involves intuition. It involves that inner hearing. And in human design, we call the 28 the game player. The game, of course, being called life. And for all of us that have tended to take life way too seriously, the sky's falling every minute, or something drama is going on, or something fantastic is happening. The 28 gives us the opportunity to realize, we're here for this dance, this 410, or maybe it's 420 these days, who knows? There's a possibility of life extension if we play our cards right and look after ourselves well and keep our spleen, keeping the body fresh and healthy. And so this 28 gateway in the spleen center, in this gateway of the game player, reminds us, play and play well. And the first line is called offering, being intuitively open to deal with challenges. All of us are getting more and more challenges every day, every minute of every day. More and more things, we're having to make decisions, we're having to look at things, we're having to deal with things. And there's just a feeling of overwhelm can come about. And what this new moon eclipse is telling us is, look, you already got the answer. The answer's inside. Otherwise, you wouldn't be confronted with whatever it is that's happening on the outside for you. I mean, that's one of the laws of life. We are equipped to deal with anything that comes our way. It is, after all, our movie. And so this 28 with the first line is just reminding us, pay more attention to your intuitive side, that inner knowing that is not involved with already in place knowledge or belief systems or whatever, that little tap on the shoulder, that little wake up call. And the fact that it's aligned with Venus exactly at this particular time. Venus is everything about the feminine side and the great things that we draw to us, the things that we really have in our life to make our life feel wonderful and expansive and beautiful. And just lately, there's been this whole thing about, a lot of unrest in parts of the world, people realizing they are absolutely being repressed, regardless of, how normal it might look to certain parts of the population. And particularly we're finding out, in Iran in particular, that women are realizing, we've been sat upon forever, and this is just not appropriate. And the whole thing is about, whether we want to wear a headscarf or not is entirely our business, let alone other things in our life as well. And so there's been a lot of throwing scarves away and getting rid of the hijabs and things like that. And looking at it and looking at some of the language that's come up in these last days, the word apocalypse has come up. And, I did Greek, but I didn't go far enough in Greek to work out what apocalypse means when you translate it. But it basically means lifting the veil. And I thought that, wow, that's kind of interesting timing that this word shows up out of the unconscious globally. And at the same time, there's a lot of this kind of, we're taking these scarves off, we're lifting the veils. And so it's not just something that's going to be happening on the physical level for women to be able to reveal themselves again to the world in many, many ways. But it's also something that's happening. The veil is being lifted at this time. And what happens when the veil is lifted, it's like when the curtain is pulled behind the guy playing the organ in The Wizard of Oz. It's like all of a sudden he realizes just somebody playing the organ and he's got a sound system that makes these noises. And it's just realizing, all of us are having this opportunity now to step into our reality. And so going a step further now with this Mars turnaround, and Mars, business as usual, the male dominance, we just go about things as we always go about things. And all of a sudden, it comes to what I'm going to describe as a screeching halt. And why I say screeching halt, because we're talking about gateway number 12. And gateway number 12 is the gate of standstill. Moreover, it happens in the fourth line. My experience with this 12th gateway in the fourth line, when I see it in somebody's design chart, I just said, you have a prophetic ability. You can see stuff. And your great challenge in this life has always been able to, how do I tell somebody about things that I see that's going to happen to them? And if this is a gift you had as a child, everyone would ask you, don't say these things. We don't want to hear about these things. We don't want to know what's going to happen. And a child in the innocence will just say, well, so-and-so is going to pass away, or this is going to happen, or that's going to happen. And sure enough, they can see these things. So the nature of Mars in this 12th gateway and the fourth line is basically between now and the 12th of January, it's going to do this retrograde. It's going to go back over all the things that we're used to doing, just same old business as usual. And as Carolyn was saying, we're going to have an opportunity to reappraise everything here and just kind of look, is this still something I want to be engaged with, my Mars energy, my output energy? Or is it time for some massive turnaround in this business as usual kind of thing? So I'll read you the fourth line with the 12th gateway, just to give a bit more of an image around it. The line is called prophesying, the ability to know when change is coming and the need to be ready. Knowing the future and knowing how you will tell of it may be two very different things. All of us have had these visions sometime or other, just the inevitability, we call it deja vu, or, a kind of future glimpse at something or other. And then sure enough, down the road, it all comes about. So we're going to have that opportunity through this season. And Mars doesn't come back to that 12th gateway and the fourth line until well into 2023. It's actually March the 15th. anyone familiar with March 15th, it's the Ides of March. And so, a lot of things are going to go down in this period of time in terms of Mars play in the world. And all of us are going to have to reinvent. And whether we have to reinvent or not, we will watch ourselves reinventing. That's my prophecy for this time. Coupled with this, the 27th, Mercury goes into gateway number 50, where the sun has been, and it's going to go into a channel. It's going to make up the channel with the Earth, the channel, the 2750. And so coupled with all this activity that's going on, the 2750 is all about having a look at our values again. What are our values? Are our values up to date? Are they helpful? Are they able to bring about benefit into people's lives? Do they bring benefit into our own lives? Are we looking out for ourselves? Are we looking out for our community? And so the sense of it is we're getting lined up for a kind of global interface in this time coming, where there's going to be just quite dramatic changes in how we go about stuff. Mm-hmm. And we're just getting a little bit of a warm up at the end of the month here, just saying, heads up, be ready and enjoy the ride, for goodness sake. This is 28, is the game player. Play it well. Trust your intuition, trust in yourself. Maybe because nobody's ever encouraged you to trust yourself, but you're hearing it from us.
Over to me?
Over to you, sweetheart.
Okay. So I'm just going to dip into the very last couple of days of October, because that's when this Mars turn is that we've been, really impressing on you is going to make a big change in our lives. Mars does the turn on the 30th of October at 25.5 degrees of Gemini. And it's going to be in this aspect I was talking about with Neptune, the right angle with Neptune, basically all month. All of the coming month of November. It may feel a little bit like, I described a little bit like you sort of got to slow down, like a little bit like you're driving through the fog. But if we look at the larger purpose of this aspect, wherever Neptune touches a personal planet, and Mars is a personal planet, it's what it's doing is it's dissolving some of the old ways, the typical ways, it's dissolving some of the more unrefined ways, perhaps, of seeing things or doing things in order to make way for a more inspired possibility to arrive. So Neptune is the higher frequency of Venus. It's that planet that has to do with the essence of love, spiritual love, if you will, or the love is as the essence of our being rather than as something we share with each other. Our being is love. It's made of love. And so being in that state of connecting with that clarity of the love that we are and allowing the love that we are to get in the driver's seat of our life. And so it's a little bit like with Mars slowing down and in this right angle with Neptune all month, all of November, it gives us that opportunity to, take the hands off the wheel. It's like, hey, there's a higher navigation that can come in and move our lives if we simply will allow it. We do need to invite it and allow it. And I think that is the highest opportunity with Mars going retrograde all this several months, is for us learning how to live a more soul orchestrated life. And you see that the more you do that, the more fulfilling life becomes. So our work may change, or the way we do our work may change. Our delivery systems may change. There's going to be so much change going on the next several months, getting us ready for this, again, another phenomenal year coming out 2023. And this Mars retrograde is the precursor to that. So take a look and allow Spirit to inspire you about what is ready to change in your life, what's ready to up level in your life, in your business, in the way that you're conducting your work and your business. Uranus, the planet of upheaval, big change. It's the awakener to higher states of consciousness. And if humanity is really, really sound asleep, as we've been for centuries, then Uranus kind of needs to give us a big, thunderclap, a lightning bolt to wake us up, to alert us to the fact that, wait, there's more to life than the third dimensional reality. There's more to me and to you than our personality vehicles. To awaken us to our capacity to act as a co-creator and a conduit for truth, for spiritual essence, for creativity on a much higher level. So it's, in the past, really 2021 and 2022, major parts of both of those years, the planet Saturn, which has to do with our limitations in life. It has to do with the lessons that we came to learn. It's our shadow. It's our karma, if you will. The things we just have to pay attention to and learn if we're going to truly progress in our consciousness. So that's Saturn. It's been in this right angle with Uranus for, almost the better of 2 years. This is the last bit of that that's going to be playing out during this Mars retrograde, where we really come face to face with the crumbling of old systems that certainly just are not working anymore. They're not serving us. That's partly what's responsible for all the unrest in the world, is that we no longer have a structure, a governmental structure, societal structure, a psychospiritual connection kind of pathway to, we don't have the structures that have to do with conducting daily life, our educational systems, our healthcare systems, it's all so much in flux because it hasn't yet answered the call of the times, where humanity is going to now. We're becoming a global community. And so a global community needs new rules, different ways of doing things. And that's what Uranus brings, is that shake up and the new possibility of doing things differently. So we're going to enter the month of November with that shakeup going on, and that's going to take us all the way to the lunar eclipse, the full moon. But I'll pause there and see what you want to say about the first week of November.
Well, just last week or last few days of October, we have Halloween, of course, the big festival. I don't know if it's a global festival, but certainly in this side of the world, everyone takes it very, very seriously. And at the same time, the sun has gone into gateway number 44. And the 44 is the last of the gateways that we're going to look at in the spleen center. The sun has gone through all of these gateways in these last weeks, giving us the opportunity to, give ourselves an internal dry cleaning, if you will, like really clean up our systems, clean up our approach to things, clean up our level of awareness. And the 44 is the gateway of the nose. Instinct. So try and explain instinct in a logical fashion, right? It's impossible. You just have access to a cellular memory, you have access to memories of things you've no idea, how did I know that? What on earth was the connection that made that relevant in me? And so as we get into the last days, the sun being in the 44, the Earth is in 24. And in human design, we're always interested to see where the Earth is in relation to everything else around us in our solar system. And it just happens that Pluto is in the last time it's going to be in gateway number 61. So throughout 2021, large part of 2022, and even a little bit going back into 2020, this channel, the 6124, was active for all of us. And in a sense, I won't say it was the cause of everything falling apart in a way, or the COVID or whatever it was that took place, but all of us realized our whole approach to life, whether we have ever thought about it or not, has completely changed. The whole thing of having screens between us and people we're talking to in businesses, wearing masks all the time, not being allowed to touch somebody, not being able to visit people in hospital, whatever, it's like all of these things, they've changed our psyche completely. And I'm not saying it's Pluto's fault, but I'm just saying we're getting a last little brush of that now. Pluto's going to be in there for the last time in the next 250 years. So our way of thinking has been changed. Our way of knowing about life has changed. And there's a difference always between the knowledge that we're given and the knowing that we have personally. And we've been given a lot of knowledge and so-called science about COVID and whatever, lockdowns and what you can and cannot do and how it transmits and all this and that. But all of us have our personal knowing inside us of how it has affected us. And so in this last few days, up until the 5th of November, we're all going to get this little bit of a review. What have we done about this whole thing? How has it affected our life? Has it knocked us off course? Has it allowed us to change course? Has it changed our whole way of thinking? And when you look at that, you'll see, yes, it's completely changed our way of thinking. As we enter into the merry month of November, and we have we're in this direction, this life theme, the Sun of the 44 of instinct, and it's in the life theme that we call the 4 directions. And it's like the beginning of November, or the Halloween kind of marks a point in time where part of us can be very extrovert and go exploring and look at everything. And another part means we have to come back inside ourselves and find out its relevance. So this first week is a great time to really look into that whole sense of relevance. And as Carola was saying, what are we doing here? What's our work? Do we need to rearrange things a little bit? Are we really still barking up a wrong tree somewhere where actually what we're after is up another tree somewhere? And as we go further into the month, we'll just see, a lot of things are being offered to us. We come to the 5th of November, and for the last time, the Sun is going to conjoin the South Node in the first hexagram of creativity. And the Earth is going to be conjuncting the North Node in the second hexagram. And at the same time, it's going to conjoin with the planet Uranus, also in the second hexagram. So the Sun is going to really accent our creativity, what it is that we've been producing. What are we doing? Are we bringing about anything innovative? Are we going outside of the bounds of everything that's been done before? And the Earth in the second hexagram conjoining with Uranus in the second hexagram is, are we open to something fresh, something new? Are we open to being receptive? So it's a complete shift around from being very directed and very on point, and you're supposed to do this, and here's what the rules tell you, to all of a sudden recognizing, maybe I'm getting some clues for myself here. And just really, really allowing ourselves to be open to watch habits and just see, is there something to be said for breaking these habits? So I'm going to pass over to you to have a look at this next eclipse that's coming about, this full moon eclipse.
Yeah, it's powerful, what we call a lunar eclipse. It happens, as you were saying, Chaitanya, happens with the moon, astrologically 16 degrees of Taurus, which is that gate 2, third line, right?
Yeah.
And it's conjoining Uranus, also in 16 degrees of Taurus. So whenever we've got the moon and Uranus together, whether it's an eclipse or not, we have some powerful catalyzing force awakening us to what change may need to happen, bringing us up to speed, so to speak. Well, this happens at an eclipse point. So remember, an eclipse point indicates a powerful change. And this, unlike the previous eclipse we had, which was a solar eclipse, which indicates more of an internal kind of change, a shift inside, values, beliefs, understanding, how our self-love, etc., those internal things that shift and values. Here with the lunar eclipse, it's about external changes. It's like, all right, so how do those internal changes now get externalized into the world, and what needs to change in terms of the fabric of my life, in terms of the way that I have my life set up? If we think of life, Leela, life is a play. If we think of the play, then what are the props in our life? All the things around us that are our props, that, like I'm an astrologer and a human design consultant, and I'm a coach. And, so those are my props in this act called Carola Eastwood for this lifetime, right? But beyond that, level deeper, who am I really? What is that soul frequency, that soul essence? And what is the true gift of my presence on planet Earth? And that's really what we're going to be asking ourselves at this eclipse. And not only what is my true value, worth, what is it that I bring of value and worth, but also how can I actualize that in the world, and in what way, or perhaps ways, have I been in my way, or have I stopped the flow of the creative energy that could just flow from me if I were like an innocent child again, without concern about what people think, or, oh yeah, I gotta make sure I pay that mortgage, or, without all those considerations. If I was just in flow, living life in flow, what level of frequency would I be living at? When I raise my frequency, then I start attracting people, events, situations, opportunities that match that frequency. So I start elevating my life. So it's all an internal process. So this eclipse is about, what is the transformation, the internal transformation that each of us needs to go through, needs to be in order to birth our next level of awareness and our next level of activity and of productivity in the world. And, if we have to, we're going to be faced with the ways, looking at the ways that we've held ourselves back. Usually those are fears, or they're old patterns, they're old voices from childhood or from ancestors past that hold us back, or from intense religious training, that, those voices that limit us. What are we listening to? Are we listening to the broadcast from our soul, from our highest truth, or are we listening to our fears? So this is where the rubber meets the road, folks. This eclipse is where we decide, we step on the high road or not. And as we make that change, and I imagine all of us in our community will be stepping on the high road through this period of time, as we make that change, then necessarily our work is going to change. If nothing else, just the frequency of it is going to change. If the form of it doesn't change much, we might still be here broadcasting and bringing you the news from the cosmos, and we might be still here coaching and doing readings and doing mentoring and teaching classes, but the energy, the frequency with which it's being done is getting up leveled once again. The other thing that's apparent at this eclipse is that, so we have 3 planets together at the eclipse, Mercury, the Sun, and Venus, all tightly, what we call conjunct, or moving together tightly, closely together in Scorpio. We've talked about the fact that the moon and Uranus is opposite that, and it's bringing the shakeup and this big need for change and awakening. That Saturn's going to show us where our limitations, where we've been in our own way, so we can make a new choice about that. So all that's true. And the other thing that's happening in the context of this eclipse is that these 3 planets, Mercury, the Sun, and Venus, are all in this beautiful triangle energy to Neptune. So the possibility is that we're receiving divine guidance every step of the way. And all we have to do is be open to that divine guidance. Take a moment and open yourself to that divine guidance. And allow it to work its miracles in your life. That's the opportunity of this eclipse here coming up on November 8th. Over to you.
All right. So where I left off was saying that we have all these things coming together, as you've remarked, Mercury, Venus, and the Sun together alongside the South Node destiny for humanity. And this full moon is opposite alongside the second hexagram in human design. And the second hexagram, it's the most yin of all the hexagrams in the I Ching. It's the gate of receptivity. And ultimately, it's an openness to knowing without knowing how you know. It sounds a little contradictory in a way. It's like, well, surely there's a book on this somewhere. And it's no.
An instruction manual.
And that's the thing about it, it's like really, it's full on. It's like, get it. you know, inside job. The story's inside you, and this eclipse, this full moon eclipse is just telling you, you've got the answer. It's in you. Doesn't matter what shows up on the radar, what's going on in the world, what have been the patterns of things before, right in this moment in time, the door's open for you to really, really appreciate who you are, what your life's all about, and all the keys and gifts you've been given to play with in this world. So the full moon eclipse takes place in the second hexagram, the third line, which is the line that's called patient knowing, acknowledging that life never ceases giving lessons. Right? If we're open to it, we can just be open to this unlearnable knowledge and this unlearnable knowing inside ourselves. Aligning within your own particular way brings special rewards in your own perfect timing. If ever there was an empowering statement there, that was it. And this is exactly what this full moon eclipse is all about. We're in this life theme. It's a change of the season. The sun has gone into hexagram number 1. It opens up this life theme that we call the Sphinx. The Sphinx, if you've never been to Egypt, I haven't yet, but it's definitely on my radar. The Sphinx, apparently, if you try and put an age on it, you know, some people say, oh, it may be 4,000 years old or whatever. And, you know, it's just been sitting there. But if you ask a geologist to look into the erosion, considering that at some stage it's been in a rainforest and there's been torrential rains on it and washed the rocks away, they'll put, you know, a few 100,000 years old. Okay, so what is this curious looking thing, this mythical creature massively carved out of stone and stuff? What's it doing there? And there's evidence of all kinds of repairs and different things going on around it at various stages in time. What's it doing there? And it's basically aiming at the Syrian star system, and has done, and holds that key that there's a connection beyond this planet into other realms. And so the sun going into the first hexagram here, this creativity at the same time we're getting this full moon eclipse, is like being open to this knowing that wants to find us. And perhaps because the Sphinx is all about giving direction, opening us up into some very radical changes. If you look at the world, and, you know, without having to just turn on the television or anything like that, or, you know, maybe you catch a little bit of what is supposed to be news, and we find there's actually war going on the planet, and there's riots going on because women are being oppressed, and there's lockdowns in whole countries because of some bug that's going around and nobody wants to use an inoculant or something around it. The level of repression that single people with a cadre of other influences around them are just keeping this total repression on the world. We did not come to this planet to have this lifetime to be repressed. I'm sorry. I don't care who's involved in it, you know. And the thing of it is, when I say I'm looking at these transits and I'm saying, you know, the answer's within us. We don't need this outside controlling mechanism and stuff to tell us what to do. And I'm not giving cause for riot or anything like that. I'm just saying it's time that all of us take on personal responsibility, regardless of what we've been told and regardless of what's been put apart. So this is really an extraordinary time that we're in, and an extraordinary time that's opening up for us. And these two eclipses are really landmark occasions for us to recognize energetically what's going on, what the cosmos is trying to put across for us here. Over to you, sweetheart.
Let's go take a look at the third quarter moon, which happens on a very special day. Third quarter moon on November 16th, which happens to be my birthday. So that's why I think it's so very special. November 16th.
Very much so.
We both have birthdays 3 days apart, so it's going to be a celebration week for us. So third quarter moon, November 16th, about 5:30 in the morning if we're looking at Pacific time. And that third quarter moon in the sign of Leo. At this point, following these two very powerful eclipses and all the changes and the realizations and the, you know, the brakes are on in one way and the, you know, the accelerator pedals going full blast in another way. And it's all this sort of changing scenery and internal kind of storms that are going on. We have this third quarter moon that's bringing us to a point of recognizing, all right, well, what have we done with all this? Where are we now? We've come through this awakening about what's working, maybe what's not working so well, what changes that are important for us to make, what new things are important for us to adapt in our life and in our consciousness. But what actual actions have we taken? So it's a check-in time. Third quarter moon always is, but it's a powerful one this time because it's a check-in on how well we've taken the energy of these two eclipses and brought them into our lives and begin to work with the material that those eclipses have brought up in some way that moves us forward in life. We do have at this time two aspects that, a little astrological terminology for you, but astrologers call them a yod aspect, or another term for it is finger of God. And to have one in a chart is significant, really significant, but to have two, and that's what we have here at this third quarter moon. It's really giving us a heads up that, Spirit's working in our favor. It's on our side. It's right there holding our hand all the way, but we do have to allow the guidance. We do have to allow ourselves to hear it, to sense it, to feel it, to see it, however we register it. And bring it into our life and take action on it. So it can't just be a higher chakra vision that we sit in meditation all blissed out. It's not about that. It's about bringing it into our earth life and the expression of our life on a daily basis and living those principles, not just being aware of them or blissed out by them, but actually incorporating them into our life. So that's what this third quarter moon says. It's all right. It's time this is where the rubber meets the road. How are we actually taking all of this awareness and enlightenment and earthing it so that we bring it into expression in the world. So here we have, Mars doing this big review of our work and the way we've done our work in the past. We might need to make some changes. It might be important for us to make those changes. And we probably won't know yet what all of those changes might be, and that's okay. If you allow yourself to flow with the internal awareness that's awakening, with the inner transformation that's happening, then all will be revealed. So it's that simple, really. Venus has, at this third quarter moon, just moved out of Scorpio, still very tightly conjunct with the Sun. The Sun and Mercury both still in the latter degrees of Scorpio, and Venus just inching into Sagittarius. All three of those planets forming a beautiful triangle with both Neptune, which we've been talking about, in its home sign of Pisces, along with Jupiter and Neptune together in Pisces. This is like blessing upon blessings, if we'll receive them. This is roses being thrown onto the stage of your life. Well done. You're part of the awakening. Bravo, keep going. This is an amazing, at least opportunity for acknowledgement about how far we've come in our consciousness and the kind of contributions that we've made, the kind of progress we've made so far. And now, what's next? That's the question. And how will we creatively birth what's next? So I see there at the third quarter.
So from the 11th of November, the sun goes into gateway number 43. And for those of you familiar with the human design chart, you'll know that the 43, if the sun's in the 43, then the earth is in the 23. So all of us, for 5 days, we get this channel, the 4323. So all the way up to the 16th of November, all of us have this channel of expressing insight. And I'm going to say expressing personal knowing, right? It's not knowledge, it's not beliefs, it's just, here it is. This is what I know. This is what's coming through me. So chances are we're going to hear ourselves saying some very interesting things at this time. We may be hearing it from other people as well. And the nature of this channel is, we give it a description, genius, when something comes across and it's like, wow, that really changed my point of view on life, to freak, where you just said something and it's terrifying me. I can't compute. It doesn't fit in my life at all. So for this 5 days, that channel, the 4323, is going to be in. and the Sun and Mercury together in the 43. So Mercury adds that little extra energy to our third eye or to our cortex in terms of working things out in a original and different way. It's like messages from the universe sometimes. And the whole question is, can we express it in a way that anybody gets to understand it? At that same time, the North Node now is in gateway number 2, the receptive, which we've talked about, where this thing of just being very open to unlearnable knowing. How did I get to know that? And at the same time, Venus, then Mercury, then the Sun, all go into gateway number 14, which makes up this channel that we call the alchemist. So, you know, there are people that do science and experiments like that, and there are people that do magic and things like that. But the alchemist is somebody that does something in a very, very particular and peculiar way, and it's inexplicable. And it goes along with what I'm talking about, inexplicable knowing about things. And so all of us are going to find from the 11th till the 22nd, we're going to have this access to not just unlearnable knowing, but just to recognize we have the means to transform our sense of prosperity and well-being and our relationship to the material world, that we can really access prosperity in a very, very different way. Interesting time. We get to the 16th, which is around that third quarter moon, I believe. Mm-hmm. And the Sun goes into gateway number 14 of itself, and the Earth being in gateway number 8, it has this interaction with the first hexagram in the South Node, the channel the 8-1, which is a channel of personal leadership. And again, it's leadership that is creative. It's the creative role model, this channel, we call it, in that destination is this, don't ask me how we're going to get there. Right?
Just follow me.
Just trust me, right? Just trust me. Don't ask for too many instructions. I can't refer to anybody else's way of having done this before. We're going to go about this in a creative way. And again, there can be this sense of, wow, I'm out of my depth here, that I'm not quite sure where life is taking me. But the key word here is the word trust. Like to really see existence is on our side. Spirit wants us to succeed. These are given things. And the more we trust in ourselves and the guidance that we get inside ourselves that is natural to us, that we can very easily recognize in our human design chart, you know, as long as we find that inner guidance, all kinds of things transpire from that. Come the 22nd, the Sun goes into gateway number 34, and we enter into this life thing we call the sleeping phoenix. And again, we have a channel by the transit, the 20 to the 34, between the throat and the sacral center. And there's an opportunity from the 22nd up until the 27th to be busier than usual. And just to be aware of that. Yes, it can be this whole Thanksgiving thing in America, you know, Black Friday, all these kinds of different things are coming up. One can get really frantic at this time. And just to see, you know, be very, very clear in your own type and authority, just how much energy gets expended there. So I'm going to stop there. Do you want to take on into the last little bit of November?
Yeah. Well, you know, so what's going to happen on the 22nd of November, the Sun is going to complete its transit of Scorpio. And that's always a, you know, maybe a hallelujah moment, because, you know, 30 days of Scorpio is a lot of deep inner transformation and looking at ourselves. And, you know, and when we go into Sagittarius, it's a little bit more like, well, it's time to celebrate, time to look up, you know, look up into the heavens to see, you know, what's possible. What's the vision? What are we moving towards? What inspires me? What can bring me greater wisdom, greater knowledge? So Sun into Sagittarius, and then right after that, the following day, the 23rd of November, we have a new moon at 1 degrees of Sagittarius. So the Sun and moon together at 1 degrees of Sagittarius. Now we've left behind most of the aspects that we were talking about earlier in the month that really were very challenging aspects. That we're kind of holding our feet to the fire, saying, you're going to do this transformation or not? You're going to take a deep look at this or not? You're going to get honest with yourself or not? You know, and for those of us who you know, who answer the call and say, all right, yeah, I'll go through whatever transformation really needs to happen, because I know that when I do, I always awaken in a higher state, in a clearer state of being, more empowered. So here we are on the other side of it as we come out of that at the new moon in Sagittarius on the 23rd, seeing life from perhaps quite a different perspective. The sun and the moon together at that new moon, just in a beautiful triangle with Neptune and Jupiter. So high inspiration, all kinds of possibilities. We start feeling all kinds of possibility. And this might be in spite of what's happening in the world. Because you certainly can look around in the world and get highly depressed or deeply depressed.
Profoundly depressed.
But that only serves to make things worse for you and for the world. So it doesn't do any good. And anyway, it's not the whole truth. It's only part of what's happening. And actually all the unrest and discord and war and, fighting in the world right now really has to do with the fact that humanity is going through a huge up level. And some of us are just kicking and screaming. And we're not ready for change. And some of us, and I think all of us in our community, are embracing change. We're ready for change. We're saying, bring it. It's time. We need this change. We need this awakening. We need this up leveling. Well, here we are. Venus and Mercury together in Sagittarius. You were talking about where they are, forming that 1-8 channel. Well, if we look at it through astrology, they're in 9 and 10 degrees of Sagittarius in a beautiful triangle to Chiron, and Chiron is the body in space that has to do with linking the higher self and the lower self. It provides the link, the bridge, the rainbow bridge, if you will, from the lower self to the higher self, from the personality self to the soul. So we've got Venus and Mercury in a trine to Chiron. It's the door's open. Just all you have to do is walk through it. The awakening's here. Just allow it to happen. Believe in it. Believe in yourself, going through it, and allow it to happen. And you find yourself at a newer, higher frequency of functioning, which then brings a whole different set of possibilities and circumstances into your life. So we're finishing up a really challenging couple of years, 2021, 2022, and preparing for this next coming year, which is going to be a bridge year into the coming times, which if we do them well, if we keep our eyes open and we stay awake and we share our knowledge and wisdom and our light with others, then we'll see that we've been very much a part of a global awakening of unprecedented scale. We are going to see this in our lifetime. So hold on to your hats. It's all happening.
So I'm not going to go into the new moon at the end of the month of November too much now, just to say the key note around it is coming into our own power, recognizing our own power as a sovereign individual, a unique being on this planet. And right at this time of this new moon, at the end of the month, the nodes shift. From the human design perspective, they've been in the second gateway with the north node, which has been encouraging us to open up to unlearnable knowing. And it moves on into gateway number 24, which is the gateway of deep thought, if you will. And chances are, well into December, we're going to be kind of tending to overthink things a little bit because things are going to be changing so radically. But, there's that thing at the end of the day, just realize the mind is it's always wanting to look out for us in a way. It's kind of weighing up our options. It's weighing up the environment around us. But just to see, there's always that opportunity to overthink stuff. And the whole encouragement this month has been go inside to find the answers to things, because the answer is surely inside.
So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to say, I think it's going to be just kind of overload of information that we said everything that's really relevant for this time. We will have a new moon. We'll have a first quarter moon, on the 30th of November, right at the very end of the month, the last day of November. But we're going to be back with you. Looks like we'll be back with you on November 26th. So we'll go into that new moon in more depth then. And tune in. In the meanwhile, be well, be blessed.
We'll
Many
see you again
blessings.
soon.